Awesome. Okay. I'm super excited today because we are going to be talking about agent-to-agent referrals. And we have Candice Amundson from Minnesota. She's one of my business partners there. And she's had some phenomenal success in this space. And I'm going to let her tell a little bit about her background and how long she's been in business and what the success that she has had, because I think you're going to find it to be quite inspiring. But I think that it's something that we should all be considering as one of those lead generation tactics. You know, I always tell people three-legged stool analogy. If you have three-legged stool, you're balanced. If you don't have all your eggs in one basket, you take one of those lead generation tools away, you're going to be on a little bit of a rocky chair. If you take two of them away, you're not going to be standing on any sort of, foundation whatsoever. You're going to fall down. And I believe that because different times of your business, different times of your life, different markets, different, points in our industry, different things work better. Like right now, for those people who are purchasing online leads, they're seeing a decline, not only in the volume of leads, but really even in a conversion rate. Whereas a year ago, they were crushing it with that. Look, they're going to be able to go back and crush it with it again. But if that's all of their business, then that's a problem. So they should be also having their sphere. They should maybe be having agent-to-agent referrals or, open houses or whatever their other lead generation tactics are. So today, what we wanted to do is open your mind to agent-agent referrals as a part of your strategy if you haven't thought of this. And Candice has done just a phenomenal job. She's a relationship builder. She, comes from a place of contribution, and she takes good care of her clients, all of them, including the agents who become her clients that refer business to her. And she's treating it like a business. And that's the thing, is we can all get a few referrals here and there, but if you actually treat it like part of your business and put a business plan around it or some strategy, you can make a lot of money doing it, or it could be a good portion of your income. So, and then of course in EXP, we have such a robust platform too, that I think if this is something that you want to take advantage of, we're set up here in a great place to do that. So without further ado, Candice, please unmute yourself. Give us a little bit of a personal intro, if you don't mind, and then we'll get right into it. You have access to share your screen or whatever you want to do. You guys don't be shy, chat in the chat box, raise your hand, ask questions, and I'll monitor the chat and also the workplace chat for you, Candice, too, okay?
Awesome. Well, thank you. It's actually a very big pleasure to be here today to help, just kind of share a little bit about what I've done and success I've had. So, and I don't know how many people know me or don't know me on here, but I am from Minnesota. So I born and raised here. This is the second career for me. So I have been in real estate since 2019. And prior to that, I was in veterinary medicine. So I did a lot of different types of jobs within that, and made a lot of connections throughout a lot of the states. So it kind of gave me a foundation to kind of launch what I'm doing now and help plan with what I'm doing. So I know agent-to-agent referrals is a kind of a wide open topic. So I'm just going to kind of cover just a little bit about my story and how I found success. I know there's a lot of different ways to do it. We do have a specific agent-to-agent referral within EXP. There's a software and a whole thing that I haven't even, tapped into. Cari can maybe talk a little bit about that. So this is just kind of my way that I found a system and what's working for me. So I'll go ahead here and share my screen. I can get this up. I just have a few little slides that I will share. I'm sure you can see this, right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I kind of fell into this happenstance. It wasn't intentional. So I started realizing that I was handing out a lot of referrals. So a lot of it was outgoing referrals. And so once I realized that I started doing a lot of referrals, I thought there has to be a more intentional way to do it and more of a system. So I found myself trying to gravitate towards figuring out some kind of system to make sure it goes the same way every time, and I'm not missing anything. Mm-hmm. So I put together a little bit of a map just to show you, because I wanted to see myself as well. So this is within the last 6 to 8 months. And these are all referrals that I have sent out. So outgoing referrals. I actually have only received 2 incoming referrals. So I figure what better way than to start giving away or to start, creating relationships that way. So my favorite one was Hawaii recently. So that was really cool. And I think one of the coolest things about just agent-to-agent referrals in general is learning about the other markets and how they're so different. And, you know, just like, for instance, from Hawaii to Minnesota, I learned about lava zones. I learned about, you know, we have radon here where the rocks and the uranium, I mean, there just isn't radium there because of what the material is. So it's just interesting to me to learn about new markets and learn about new things. So these are all my, within the last, I would say 6 to 8 months. So what I did is I started looking at different opportunities. So like Cari said, I have 3 pillars is what I call them. So one of my pillars is agent-to-agent referrals. So I look for opportunities everywhere. So I would say one of my favorite ones are lenders or mortgage brokers, because when you meet with them and you explain to them, hey, I have, you know, this platform, which is Workplace within EXP, and I have ability to really sort through and build connections with other realtors so that I really know who's on the other end of that referral. So I approach my lenders and mortgage brokers, and if they have buyers that are pre-approved in other states, but they don't already have a relationship with an agent, then I will take on that and I will go ahead and start doing research for that particular buyer and help pair up. And then there's the referral from that buyer to the agent. So I'm really not involved in it at all. The buyer doesn't know me in that situation. Another opportunity would be your vendors. So sometimes I found opportunities with my title person, my stager, all of the vendors, you know, may also be a buyer themselves. So sometimes when realtors are sitting down with our vendors, we're talking about them bringing us a buyer or, you know, a referral to us. However, sometimes we miss that they might be the referral themselves. So they might want a vacation property. They might want a second property. Maybe they have family down in a different state, you know, if they're in Minnesota here. So just thinking about the conversations that you have with people to kind of learn about what kind of opportunities there could be. So that's where I found some success as well. So same thing goes with small business owners as well from networking groups. Agents outside of your MLS within the same state, I think that's also another opportunity. You know, every state has somewhat of a like destination or a vacation kind of area. So if you can create relationships with those agents outside of where your MLS is, that will really help you because it will really create that long-standing relationship, and then the referrals will keep coming. Past transaction agents. So of course, those could be opportunities as well, especially if they're just a little further outside of your area that you prefer to be or you drive to. Out of state friends, family, coworkers. So this kind of, I went back to my previous career and I had a lot of friends and family outside of Minnesota. And so I just, you know, started nurturing those leads and went back to my sphere again and really started, you know, building those relationships again. Once I realized, you know, yes, people want second properties. They want to be close to family. They want to be able to do that. I found that there was a lot of opportunity there as well. And then as I went back a couple of times, the vacation properties. So one of my mentors, Jeremy Worley, will talk about this quite a bit, but he said recently that vacation properties like the short-term rentals, Airbnbs, are going to be like a washing machine, like everyone's going to have one. So it really is something that once you look at these opportunities and step into conversations where you have these types of, you know, talks and things, you really start to learn that there are a lot more opportunities. Mm-hmm. Workplace, as I mentioned, I use Workplace quite a bit, and I think you'll find a lot of really top producing agents and agents that have a lot of success are commonly in Workplace quite a bit. So there's a reason for that. I also look for opportunities there as well. So call outs, that would be one of the first things. That's just what I call when a certain agent sees a post in Workplace saying that they're looking for a buyer or seller agent and in a particular area. So it's good to have a relationship with other agents, even if you haven't given them a referral yet. it's good to have that relationship so that they can call out your name and post your name whenever there is in your area, possibly a buyer or seller. And then to also do the same thing in return for them. So if you have, an agent in a certain state, certain area, and you see somebody's looking for that, make sure to tag their name too, to kind of help promote them. And then there are many groups, as you know, inside of Workplace. So if you can just type in the search for referral, you'll probably find all the different referral groups that you can be a part of. And I would say get into those groups if this is something that you really want to put some focus on. I go in these groups every morning. I'm sure some people go in much more frequent than that. But that's how I stay up with things. And then if I can help call out during the day too, is the nice thing inside of Workplace is that in those groups, you can specifically set your notifications. So if you do or do not want to receive notifications from different groups, so I make sure that all of my referral groups I have, so it notifies me in all ways on my phone. So that's another thing too, is just to make sure you're constantly working within the group. And then part of that is once you have these relationships with people, it's all about the follow-up. So for me, that was another thing last year that I said, I'm intentional about this now. I am going to make sure that I follow up with my people, get them in my database. So I started adding all of the new agents to my database. And anytime that they would post something, if it was somebody that I had a relationship with, I would make sure that I was following up with them. So getting them set up on a drip campaign, just like you would a buyer, seller, investor, things like that. So you can, inside of KV Core, you can send newsletters, customizable, you can send emails, things like that. So just keeping first and top of mind to those agents, I think is a big thing. And then also Facebook. So this would be Facebook groups. Try to find things that are maybe agent centered. So a lot of times you can just type in, realtor, real estate, things like that inside of Facebook. And you can find different groups that agents are a part of. So I find sometimes there'll be talk amongst agents about looking for a referral partner. So also watch if they're posting something about lenders or vendors in your area too. Maybe they already do have a buyer that's looking in that area and they already have an agent for that. However, there might be a future opportunity. So if they're posting a lot of questions, or sometimes you'll see that in general on Facebook, where people are asking, do you have a painter, or does anybody know of a handyman in this area? Those might be little keywords or buzzwords to kind of put your radar out that maybe there might be a referral opportunity or buyer seller. Local community groups. So these could be anything in your local community. So there's lots of other groups I'm sure we've all heard of, networking groups, CNI. There's many things that you can get involved in as well in the community that may not be a particular group, or you can even create something. So I know a lot of people in our local area have had success with Facebook groups and creating a specific group, adding in people that way. So you have a kind of a continuation of adding to that. You can also consider doing like if there's a niche that you have. So if you're working with investors, you could create a group specifically for that and have multiple groups that you manage, kind of depending on your level of commitment. So that might be something also to consider. Or, myself, I had a previous background in veterinary medicine. So I might create a group specifically for animals or dogs, getting a new home or something around that. That's kind of fun. So you get people that are likely going to want to work with you in those groups as well. Next area is how to attract. So I followed a few different agents and, really just kind of created my own way. So I think with the content is going to be probably the best way you're going to attract people. So that would be your social content that you're posting. You really want to show that you are the specialist in your area, so other agents are wanting to trust you. If you are out there, showing you're a local guide and you're connecting with small business owners and partnering with other agents as well, that's going to be more likely that someone would want to refer to you. Also, when you're doing your video and social content, I've noticed I try to be a little bit more focused to an agent. So there can be a mix of this too. So for instance, I would want to focus more on how I take my agents around or what I do with my day as an agent, because that shows that if I am, sticking to a schedule, if I can, have success in my schedule of working through 5 appointments, that's going to show another agent that you are committed, that you are setting appointments, you're having conversations, you're doing what you say you're going to do. Also taking pictures and sharing when you are out in the community or with social small businesses, anytime you're collaborating or volunteering as well, just being your authentic self, I think is really the answer. So that's how I've kind of created a little bit more of an attraction. I still do educational information as well, because I am in production. So I want to make sure I'm educating my buyers, sellers, investors. But you can also try to be more hyper-focused on an area. So, educational content maybe on, if you're looking at first-time home buyers, maybe you pick like a community, a county where there might be some, down payment assistance or things like that. So more like a focus on that particular market that you're in, because that will also educate your buyers, first-time home buyers. And it also shows that other agents across the states that you really are educated in your market and you're the agent that they want to pick. Mm-hmm. So then I go through an interview process. So let's say you get your lead. For this one, we'll just say this one came from a lender, for instance. So my process has been selecting about 2 to 3 agents, and it's always going to be based on the buyer need. So for instance, this one was a VA buyer that was buying their first time home. And so I wanted to find somebody specifically that knows the VA loan product and also works with first time home buyers in that area where they were purchasing. So a couple ways that you can do that is you can go on Workplace and the referral groups and you can put a post out there. And commonly I'll tell you that if there is a rockstar agent, their name will populate probably 6 to 7 times. So usually what I've done is I've done 1 buyer post at a time. So there's been a few times where I've had 3 buyer referrals going out in one day. But if I do too many of these in one day, it's just gotten to be too much. So I focus on 1 buyer need per day at this point. And I'll call these agents, have a conversation. I would say create your list of your qualifying questions, just like you would with a buyer or seller. So if you're going to be interviewing them to figure out if they're a qualified seller, kind of create a list of questions that you would ask. And usually those questions are going to be some kind of tell me a story recently about a VA buyer you've helped, or tell me a story about how you've helped, a first-time home buyer. So that way you can hear about how they handled things, how they felt the situation went, how they communicated. So you can get a lot of information just by having them tell you a story. So that's one of the things I do. And then once you go through, then getting to the referral fee, I wanted to point this out a little bit because this was something that I learned a little. So I originally had sent out a referral to Winona Lloyd. So she's out in Arkansas, in North Arkansas. She does some commercial and residential. And I called her and I said, hey, I've got this, great buyer here. He wants to buy a property out in, your area. And I said, how do you feel about a 30% referral fee? And she kind of laughed, and with her, her accent, she's like, oh, honey, the price is down here. That just doesn't make any sense. So, so I learned a lesson from her that, you know, make sure you check the price points, because if it is a much lower area, so the market is a little lower, and it's within EXP, it might be more of a 20% referral, or 25%. If you are working with, you know, your standard referrals are, I would say 30% to 35%. I have even seen the luxury, or if it's a family member or somebody really close to you, being a 50-50%. So I would say just be aware of that when you're looking at your area and what your buyer is pre-approved for. I still have seen 30% on like those luxury over $1 million properties, but that was a learning lesson for me. So Winona was great about that. And then the big thing too, I think, is also, again, with the follow-up. So adding into your CRM and doing follow-up on social. So making sure that you put them in your CRM, but then you're also liking and following on every social platform that you can, and then engaging in them too. So anytime that they're posting that they have a listing, open house, the buyer just got under contract, you know, anytime that there's any high points, I always make a point to, you know, comment on them, let them know that I'm here, you know, cheering them on from afar. And over 6 to 8 months, we create a relationship where I could pick up the phone and call them because I'm watching them on social. I'm friends with them. So I can just pick up the phone and, you know, if I even have a question just about their market, or just, you know, I saw you had a bad day and, you know, it looks like this happened, and, you know, I'm sorry you had a hurricane and that you guys are going through this right now. So there's a lot of times where I felt a lot closer to them, even though we were thousands of miles apart. Wow. So that's awesome. So follow up. And then after I get to that point, what I've been doing from here on out is being very intentional about my paperwork. So you can sometimes get into these referral forms and go back and forth because you don't have the right email. The person's name is incorrect. So there's all these little details that I wanted just to point this out because it makes it easier. So when you do your referral form, and of course, this is the Minnesota form, it might be different in other states. But I have found that if you can create in whichever signing you use, if you use DocuSign, AuthentiSign, Dotloop, whatever it is, you can put all 4 signatures in one signing, and instead of having, you know, one person sign and then it comes back. So I was training a newer agent on how to kind of do this easier. So I also make sure that I do this and that it's all signed and sent over to all parties before sharing any client information. And then once you have this all documented and it goes into SkySlope, you want to have them add as a co-agent in SkySlope, and that just helps easier with the commissions. And if you're not sure about this, there's a lot of TCs or transaction coordinators that will do this and facilitate this for you. So shouldn't really be difficult at all. So yeah, I would say just check your state requirements. This one particularly was going to Florida, and in Florida, the person's name has to be Hanan Shaheen. I think it's how you say her last name. Okay. So one of the ways you can find that out too is go into Workplace and go to the state group, because on their banner, so like if you go to that group, you can see on the banner and it will have all the, you know, contact who's the broker, all of that information. So I found that I will go there first and make sure I have all the information. Some states like Minnesota or Wisconsin, they don't even require you to put a particular managing broker's name. You could just put like Wisconsin broker and they'll sign it. So just make sure you're really careful about that, just to save yourself some time. Yeah, so that's what I had for my process. I wanted to leave some time, you know, for us to have a little bit of conversation, because I know there's a lot of us that probably do things differently, and I'd love to hear what's working for you, or if there's any way that we can mastermind some ideas.
Yeah, first and foremost, I think, you know, my takeaways, and then I'd love for you guys to raise your hand or just unmute yourself and let's just talk about it. is really being purposeful about consistency. So she's looking at it multiple times. She's got a routine. Consistency has to be in there. The second thing is developing a relationship, just like we do with our clients and our sphere of influence. She's developing the relationship with these agents. And even when she doesn't get the referral, if she sees that they've given a lot of referrals, go and get into the relationship with. And then I just loved all the different places that you go looking for more leads to give out. Because to your point, the best way to start receiving is to go out there and give. Because once you give referrals to somebody, they're going to think of you when they have one for you too, because that's just the law of reciprocation, which actually is a real thing. So I loved all of that. And then having a system behind it, putting those people after you've closed a referral with somebody, putting them in your database as an agent, and just having some sort of monthly check-in or campaign, a little market update. Here's what's going on in Minnesota in case you have any referrals. Is there anything I can do for you? Hope you're well. It doesn't have to be complex, you guys. You could say the same thing every month, just change that market update. It can be very simple. I think oftentimes we just, we want it to be, we make it so much more complex than it is. And then it takes us so much to get ready, and then we never do it, you know? So those are my takeaways, my ahas. How about you guys? Go ahead and unmute yourself, even if you can't be on camera. Share if you have done this, if you want to do it, what questions, what ideas, what thoughts you have. Anyone? You guys are being really shy today.
And I think too, like with being in the EXP family tree, I mean, if you're not sure where to start, definitely start there, because we have agents all over the place, like you said. So if you're particularly looking to, you know, make a relationship with a luxury agent, or with, you know, let's say you have a particular niche that you're looking at, you can start getting into relationships with them and send out messages saying that you're building up your referral network. So even if you don't have a referral to give, or you know, there isn't one to take, then you can certainly start building relationships regardless.
Yeah, good point. What thoughts? How many of you, unmute yourself or chat, how many of you do make this part of your business to some degree, or have made it part of your business to some degree?
I haven't really, but Candice has inspired me to do more and be more intentional about it. So I appreciate learning the process, and she inspires me every day to do things in a better way. So
I love it. True to that. Anybody else have you received? Have you given? Have you put any focus on this in the past? How's it gone?
Cari, I am working on a referral right now that I don't want to give up completely, and they're out of state. They were a referral to me from previous business, and they haven't decided where they want to land yet. So I just went in and I reached out to some agents in the city it's an hour south of me. And, you know, I'm hyper local. So I let her know, I said, I don't know where they're going to land, but I would love to add you to my network. And we're kind of working together, knowing that if they buy within a certain area, she'll be the referral agent. But otherwise, we're building a relationship, and hopefully that will be reciprocated.
That's a great idea, because there are those situations where you're beginning to work with somebody and they don't really know where they want to go yet. And so, you know, that can be a bit of a challenge. And so that's a great way to like get into that relationship. You're not over promising to under deliver, but you're saying, hey, here's the situation. And then it gives you an opportunity to get to know that person. And so you guys are an hour apart. There might be a great opportunity to be able to send referrals back and forth. So it's a great relationship to have, I would say.
Definitely. And I came a little bit late, so I apologize, Candice, if I missed this, but one of the questions I would have, because this is a newer thing for me, is if the client doesn't end up buying in that area, but she's put in a lot of work, like, should I still give her a cut? I don't know how to bridge that conversation to make sure that we're being fair and respectful of each other's time.
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I haven't had that situation happen where they had, you know, put a lot of time into it. And I think it's probably going to come down to just setting that expectation right away. Like you said, you know, saying, this is what the relationship is, and who, I don't know if she's going to go this way or not. Because really in the end, that agent needs to be responsible for how much time and what they do for that buyer or seller. So I think just setting the expectation right away, I think is the best way to do it.
Yeah, just say, you know, what I always like to ask the question, you know, what, if you were in my position, what would you think is fair? You know, because then it puts them in a place where it's like that they need to think differently to be fair too, because it's a little bit of a unique situation, right? But it allows you guys to come together on it and be on the same page. And then whatever happens, you kind of already talked about it, which is always better than trying to figure out after the fact, for sure.
Yeah. And you could even, like, I know that sometimes showing agents will charge per door. So, I mean, there could be some kind of compensation where you could say, you know, I know that you showed 4 houses and I would love to compensate you for this. So that might be an idea.
Yep. Good point. Anybody else have any other suggestions, or have you done it differently if you've had a situation like that, out of curiosity? No. Okay. So what else? Good question. So that's what I would do, Joanne, for sure. And I know you did miss a little bit of this, but we were talking about all the different ways that you can receive, because I actually think of you, Joanne, because, you know, you do stay super hyper local, but you probably have an opportunity to get business in a lot of places. And so, you know, how do you develop those relationships around you, an hour around you, you know, a couple hours around you? How do you start kind of doing that? And then how do you go find business to refer? And you can watch the beginning of this video if you want, but Candice went through like ways that she's been able to get quite a few outgoing. How many outgoing referrals have you sent in the last 6 to 8 months, Candice?
Goodness. Let me see here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, about 18 to 20.
Okay. That's a lot. Yeah. So if you could be referring 20 to 40 transactions out to other agents across the country and receiving payment on those every year, think about how much you're adding to your bottom line. And when you're doing outbound, this is a very, you know, large dollar per hour rate, right? Comparative to other things you could do. So do you want to just quickly recap again what your top ways of finding those buyer leads to give out to other agents are, just as a quick recap, Candice?
Yeah, I would say some of the top opportunities. So I use my lenders, mortgage brokers. So that's where, like, if they have a buyer that's approved outside of a state, that they have a relationship with that agent. Vendors have also become my referrals. So a lot of times, like my title person, a stager, any handyman, painter, those types of people, a lot of times I'm finding they're looking for vacation or second homes. Agents outside the MLS, but in the same state. So kind of like what we just talked about. Past transactions with agents. So if you've done any past with them, sometimes they may want to refer out to you if they're a little bit outside of that area. Sometimes they're showing a buyer. If I have a listing, they have a buyer coming from maybe an hour and a half away, so they don't really prefer working in that area. One of the other ones I talked about was out of state. So like friends, family, coworkers, different groups that you're affiliated with, or clients that move out of state, those are also great ways. So if you help a buyer sell their home here and they move to Ohio, for instance, but to connect them with a real estate agent there, so that if there's any referrals that they have, that you'll get referral fees for those if they use you as the agent. And then I mentioned the vacation properties. So that was another. And then going inside of workplace to find opportunities.
Yeah. So this is a whole nother business plan, you guys. This is a whole nother way that you can get business to the tune of 20, 30, 40 or more $1,000 in referral fees very easily. And I say easily because it's not complex. You have to do the work and it does take planning. But if you put the plan in place and you start putting some of these things together now and you get consistent at it, it really can be a great income, and a revenue generating opportunity that doesn't take hours and hours and hours of your time. But there has to be some purposeful effort towards it for sure.
Yeah. And sometimes I would say for one buyer or seller that I'm referring, sometimes there are two agents that sign the referral form. So it could be multiple agents. And then my buyer will be given the 2 to 3 options, and then they can choose. But I'm very upfront with those agents ahead of time. And I say, you know, I've selected 2 agents for this particular buyer. They'll both be, you guys will both be signing a referral agreement. And then my buyer will choose, you know, who they feel they work best with. And so then I also feel like I'm not just giving them one option. And that's been a lot easier for me too. But then I also have multiple people. Usually I try to have a male and a female so that if there's a difference, if somebody cares or not, but that just happens to be what has worked out.
I like it. Any other takeaways or ahas, you guys? This was really, really good. I mean, I don't know a lot of people that put this much effort. I know there's some, but there aren't a lot of agents that put this much effort towards this particular niche in real estate. And it really is a big opportunity if you want to, you know, make it one of your, you know, legs in your 3-legged stool. I mean, there really is a great opportunity. And I think that in every given local market, there's not that many people doing this. So I think that you could make it something that is your own and would stand you apart from competition. And you might not have a lot of local agents out there being as purposeful about it as you are, which means, you know, you're going to have a greater probability of success too. That's just, you know, my experience, I guess.
Yeah. And then I think too, like I've been looking for opportunities. So on Facebook, for instance, when someone says I am, you know, I'm on vacation in Hawaii and I would, you know, love to live here. And they make those silly comments sometimes. And so I've been finding if I say to them, when you are ready to have your own slice of heaven or paradise, call me. And so it's like a when you're ready, and then a call to action. And then usually within a couple weeks, if they're interested, people come to me and say, okay, I really want to buy some land, or I really want to buy here. So I think just making those comments and just being more bold about it, you'll get those people that might have just been on the fence. And then they're like, oh, I didn't even think this was possible, but she actually knows somebody. So you just have to look for the opportunities.
Good point. Yeah. How many times do you kind of go past, you know, you see somebody do that and you're like, oh, they're just kidding. And so you just go past it, where you could have maybe taken the opportunity to actually say something that could pan out in a few months or 6 months. I mean, we all need a pipeline 2 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, right?
Yeah.
So,
and what I find too is then, so that person was here in Minnesota, they were, you know, out in Hawaii. So she also then has started talking about me to her other friends. So then it solicits all these other referrals as well. Because, you know, they're like, hey, she helped me get my dream paradise little slice of land. And so then they're talking about it in their sphere, and it just keeps going from there.
Yeah. Good point. All right, you guys, I want a couple people to unmute yourself and just share an aha, a takeaway, something that you might do moving forward from something that you heard. Even if it's not necessarily agent to agent, you might have heard something else that was like, I should do that in my business and apply it to something a little different. I want to hear a couple of people before we get off the call today. You guys can do this, I promise.
Cari, I was just thinking it's a little bit different, but she inspired me, Candice, to go back to one of my recent clients that bought a vacation home in Tampa, and just to do a check-in on them, and then share a video about checking in on my clients that bought their vacation home and post it and get more vacation buyers.
Yes.
Yay.
Yes, I love that. Great idea.
Yeah. I think the other thing too is that when you do get a referral, just to make sure that your communication and saying that you're going to keep them updated. I feel like a lot of times when we give away a referral, we're so worried that we're just going to be so disconnected and not in the loop on things. And, you know, and that's not what we really want. So just being mindful of that relationship and telling them upfront that, you know, I have a transaction coordinator and they give you weekly updates, or whatever you do to keep your referral agent in the loop. So yeah, I love that, Joanne.
Good point. Good point. Awesome.
That actually brings up another question that I have, because I think not doing a lot of referral business leaves me a little bit insecure about how these other agents are going to handle the situation. And so I'm not really that comfortable with the questions to ask. So I think it's just something I need to dive in, because we're kind of partnering on it. So I think it's kind of like getting into real estate at all. You have to just get comfortable with the situation and just dive in and do it. And then you kind of learn where you might want to tighten up that relationship as you go.
Good point. Yeah. What are those questions? I mean, like, how do you really quickly, since we have a couple minutes, how do you identify they're the right people? How do you get into that relationship? What questions do you ask? How do you set the expectation that you're going to keep in touch so that you don't feel out of the loop, so you can still maintain a relationship with the client and with them so that you can get more referrals and receive more referrals? Like, tell us a little bit about any tips or tricks in regards to that.
You know, it's kind of funny you think that they say that, because I was thinking that the way I do it mostly is about personality. I try to pair up personalities as best I can.
Okay.
I've done a lot of coaching recent with Lisa's on this call too. And we talk about the different lead generation types based on your personality and kind of how you communicate with people. So if I have, let's say, a high D personality buyer, I want to make sure when I ask those questions that they're going to be more questions that are analytical questions. Or let's say they're more of an I person and they're, you know, very much involved in relationships and going to events and things like that. So then I'm going to ask people how involved they are in their community and their networking. And so it's more personality driven, I find, because I feel like I've found more success that way if I can try to pair up the buyer, but I need to know something about the buyer or the seller to kind of do that though.
Yeah. Good point. Good. What else? All right. So how many of you are going to, do you feel like this could be a good thing to add to your business if you look at your business moving forward and you're trying to make sure that you are more consistent, you're more specific on, you know, on how you're going to get business in this new year, and just really putting some more purposefulness and plans around your business, looking at your three-legged stool. How many of you feel like this could be something that you could add into your business that could bring you some benefit? Anybody? Yeah, I think so. I think we all can. It's just a matter if we want to. Not everybody wants to. But I mean, if we're all out here across the country trying to get business, if we forge the relationships with each other, yes, we have to pay a referral fee, but it's like some of the heavy lifting gets taken off of us and we get to take advantage of other people doing what we're doing across the country. We don't have to do it 2 times. We just do it once. They do it once and they bring us, you know, some favor back and vice versa. It's like not any different than taking a lead from Up City. You're going to pay the same referral fee or more, but you know, you might not, you don't have necessarily the ongoing from that like you could from a referral partner. And so I love it. I think it's awesome. I think my biggest takeaway, you guys, is all the different places that Candice goes and finds these referrals. Like, you know, she gave away 18, 20 referrals. How do you guys go find 18 to 20 people that need to make a move, even if it's not in your area? That's amazing. Just employing those sorts of things are going to help you with referrals, but help you with your own business. So if anything, take away that slide and that information from the call today. So let me just make sure there was no other, yep. So Lisa said, I think it's all about intentional and genuine follow-up system. I agree. That was Lisa who was watching live. We have a number of people watching live, but she made that comment. Very, very true, Lisa. So thanks to you guys that are watching this as well. So we're going to have this, live streamed and stay live streamed in our EXP family tree. By the way, those of you who've asked how you can go back and find these, there's 2 ways you can do it. You can go into EXP family tree and you can search my name in the search bar, and then all the different posts and or lives that I've done are going to come, and then you can find them. You can also go to my profile in Workplace, and every live stream or video I've ever done is like in my profile. And sometimes it's easier to find than searching through EXP family tree. I just realized that the other day and I was like, oh, that's an easier way. Or you can just find me on YouTube, which is just Cari Briner. And I get these up within 24 hours. So you can go and take them right from YouTube, watch them again, listen while you're making dinner, hear it again, make some plans, you know, pause the recording so you can make notes if this was too fast for you, which usually we need to watch it a couple times to let it sink in, and then maybe go pass it on to somebody that you could bring value to. That would be cool as well. So Candice, any final thoughts, or anybody else before we go? Because we're right on time, which is awesome. Anything?
Yeah, I'm grateful that I could share with you, and I really hope that everybody else can start doing something with their referrals, because like you said, I just want people to not have to work as hard. And if you can find different streams of income where money is just coming into you, I think that that's a win.
It's a huge win. I mean, it's all about relationships. We talk all the time about our business is, all about relationships. And this part of the business is all about relationships too. And it's just something a little bit different. And sometimes we overlook it, but I just really think it's such a great opportunity. And if you guys haven't been able to tell, Candice is an amazing referral partner if you're ever looking for somebody in that area, of course. And also, you guys, if you need anything, she's super giving of her time. You can find her on Workplace. You can find me, of course, on Workplace. If you have any comments, questions, or need anything else from any of us, please reach out. I love bringing members of our group in, and like Candice, and just talking with people who are having success in their local markets. I love bringing people in that haven't been in business for 20 years. Candice hasn't been in business that long, and she's crushing it in this particular thing because what she did is she committed to it. She set a system, she got consistent around it, and she's coming from a place of relationship and conversation, and it's reaping her the benefits. And for me, the message to all of you is any of us can do that, no matter how long we've been in the business or not. And no matter if we're just starting the lead generation, tactic or not, we can get value from something, but there has to be certain ingredients: consistency, being intentional and purposeful, and some sort of system. And I do believe coming from relationship in everything that we do is always going to make it a lot easier and a lot better. Mm-hmm. So take those things away today. And do with it what you will. But I just want to say thank you so much again, Candice, for being here, because you're inspiring our group in Minnesota. Your leadership is awesome. You're leading by example, which is the best type of leadership. And I was just excited to get you in front of a lot of people here in Workplace, because when the best of the best and the people that really want to contribute and collaborate and share come together, then we can all learn and do a lot more. So I really appreciate you taking the time to do it with us.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Awesome. Thanks, you guys. Make it a great rest of your day. Go out there and do something with the information you learned today, even just one thing. Remember, just 1% better each day, or 1% different each day makes a huge difference in the course of a year, right, you guys? So do something with it. We'll see you back here tomorrow for another great training. So don't miss it. And please pass it on to your friends so we can continue to have people get value from our group and our trainings. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon. And if you're on spring break, I hope you're having a great vacation.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.